appointee to the Assistant Secretary of the Army.
Right. Well, after the Army, I wanted to let go of the edge of the pool, and I got recruited into public education by Eli Broad's Foundation out in L.A. And I had flunked second grade when I was a kid, and I finally did well in third grade. And I thought, this is like a God thing. Maybe I'm supposed to go pay back and help other kids, who can't read in second grade or aren't excited about school, and create a better education system. And I had a specific school system in mind, Huntsville in Alabama, because I'd spent a lot of time in Huntsville, Redstone Arsenal. And I talked to my wife about it, and she pulled out a picture from third grade with my favorite teacher, Mrs. Bishop. And she'd brought that back from my folks' house, cleaning out my old junk there. And I said, I think it's a God thing. This is too coincidental. I'm supposed to do this. I think the Broad Foundation interviewed like 200 people and picked like 14. And so I thought they were pretty credible. And I went out and did that. It's a fellowship for a year. And then did a school system in Aurora, Colorado as chief financial officer. And then Huntsville, they had removed their superintendent because they had run out of money on a wonderful tax base, which seems hard to do. And the only way you really ever fire a superintendent is if they run out of money. And so I was a money guy, they thought, economist. So I seemed like a good pick to fix the money problem. And I got picked on I think a 3-2 vote by a 4 or 5 member board. And we went to Huntsville to be superintendent, which will always be the hardest job I've ever done. The Pentagon was easy peasy compared to that.
Compared to superintendent of education.
Yeah, there's no tougher job. If you actually give a damn about kids, there's no tougher job. And I wrapped that up after 5 years and 3 months, and was recruited to go to Addison here near Dallas, and joined some friends that were running a company that did event technology for the NFL and all kinds of big teams, and ended up being their CFO and then their CEO. And I did that for 2 years. We sold that company and did nicely in the private sector. And then I got a call from friends who were in the Trump administration, said, would you be interested in being Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs? And I'm like, absolutely. I've worked for 5 of those guys. That's an important job. That's really, interesting work. And so I went and interviewed with Mr. McCarthy, who was the undersecretary and a sharp guy. And then he was acting secretary. They were waiting for Dr. Esper to get confirmed. Then I went back and interviewed with Dr. Esper, and I don't think he was that crazy about me. I think he had a different guy in mind, but John McCain said no more defense contractors, so that put that out. And then he interviewed me again, and he said, you're my guy. And then we went through the whole FBI thing and the work for the White House to make sure they're happy, and then the work for the Senate Armed Services Committee, and then the big wait. And I was confirmed on the last day of that Congress, in the last, I think, vote.
Wow.
And I'd already told my friends in Texas, yeah, I'm coming back, I'll run your other company. And a note came across. And the way you find out you get one of these jobs, apparently, is you're on the CC line between, somebody and the Secretary of the Army saying, white smoke, we got Wardynski and this other gentleman. And that's how you get notified. So then down over to Washington to be Assistant Secretary of the Army from I think that was 16th or something like that of January 2019 through the end of the Trump first administration.
So in terms of pecking order or command, explain what that position is for the layperson like myself.
Right.
Who's your boss? I mean, who's the top boss, and then how does it work its way down to you?
Right. Well, these are presidential appointment, Senate confirmed. They're called PASS. They're in a book called the Plum Book. You can look them all up. And the chain of command is really, you're a principal official, U.S. government. You're appointed by the president. Notionally, he's the guy that can fire you. Now, the working order chain of command is SecDef, SecArmy, and you. So I was in the Secretariat. I think there's 5 or 6 assistant secretaries, finance, weapons systems, the Corps of Engineers, personnel, which was me, and there was one other, installations.
But you weren't Secretary of Finance,
no,
even though you were the economist.
Right. Well, all the money in the Army's in people.
Right. So but you nevertheless had a budget that was what?
Enormous. It was ridiculously enormous. I had oversight, I think, in the budgetary process over close to $100 billion.
Wow.
And in the personnel part of that, it was somewhere around $70 billion. So I had oversight over a whole bunch of stuff, training, mobilization, law enforcement, the chaplains, and so forth. It was a long list, medicine, but payroll was the biggest piece of the budget, obviously. And, you know, that's a lot of money. And so making good decisions is kind of important because it quickly adds up.